Hello, hello, hello. This is the Vanilla JavaScript podcast. I'm Chris Ferdinandi. Thanks so much for joining me. Today, we're going to be talking about HTML, specifically images and screen reader users. And what I wanted to talk today about is the alt attribute. The alt attribute is used with image elements to provide descriptive text that can be read aloud by screen readers and other assistive technology. For example, imagine if you have a photo of a crab and you add it to a web page with an image element and a source pointing to the path of that image. Maybe the file name is edgarthecrab.jpg. By default, a screen reader would announce edgarthecrab.jpg for the image. If we add an alt attribute with a description of the image, that will be read aloud instead. So imagine if on that image element, I added an alt attribute that had the text, "A crab standing in wet packed sand, waving as the tide gently laps the shore behind him." Now, a screen reader would announce that out loud, and this allows visually impaired users to get the same information from the image that someone who doesn't need assistive technology would. Let's talk a little bit about how to write good alt text, because this is an area where I struggled for years, and I see a lot of my students sometimes running into problems as well. When writing alt text, you want to try to describe the details of the image rather than simply stating what it is. Using our photo of Edgar the crab as an example, "The crab I met on my vacation" would be bad alt text. It's descriptive, but it doesn't actually describe the content of the image itself, more what it's about. There's also an attribute called title that is also often read aloud by screen readers, and many people incorrectly assume that you can use title and alt interchangeably. So for example, you might sometimes see people with title that has a value of "a crab standing in wet packed sand, waving as the tide gently laps the shore behind him." Similarly, that's also what if you use that as the value for the title attribute, that's what a screen reader would announce. Because of that, you don't want to use the same text for both the title and alt attributes, as it would get read aloud twice by many screen readers. And a long time ago in WordPress builds, I used to see image elements have title and alt applied to them, or headings that would have a title applied to them that was the same text as inside the heading itself. And you don't want to do that. The title attribute, semantically, is supposed to provide the kind of information you might find in a caption. So, for example, "The crab I met on my vacation" would be more appropriate for a title. And then you could use them both together. So that image could have a title of "The crab I met on my vacation," and the alt text could be "A crab standing in wet packed sand, waving," etc. That said, in most situations, wrapping an image in a figure element, adding that text as a fig caption, and not including the title attribute is typically a better option, since it's both exposed visually and read aloud by screen readers. That allows folks who aren't visually impaired to get that same information as well. Every now and then you might have an image that's purely decorative in nature. And just as an aside, images that are just decorative are far less common than you might think. But when that's the case, it's better to use an empty string for your alt text rather than omit the attribute entirely. Without the attribute, screen readers will read the file name of the image. With an empty string, it won't announce anything at all, which is more appropriate for an image that's purely decorative. So anyways, that's it for today. If you want to finally master JavaScript, head over to vanillajsguides.com and check out my pocket guides and video courses. As a listener of the show, you can take 30% off with the code podcast at checkout. See you next time. Cheers.